At this point in the evening, the projected winner of the Iowa caucuses has just started giving his victory speech. We will keep an eye on that. There is a reason that we and other news organizations have generally stopped giving an unfiltered live platform to remarks by former President Trump. It is not out of spite. It is not a decision that we relish.
Trump declaring victory with a historically strong showing in the Iowa caucuses. A relatively subdued speech as these things go so far, although here he is right now under my voice. You hear him repeating his anti-immigrant rhetoric.
Trying to silence the GOP frontrunner after he won the first major test of the 2024 election. Okay, you can't make this up. This is from the pro-democracy crowd. So my question tonight is, what happens in the general election? Are we only going to hear from Biden when they roll him out? Joining me now, Victor Davis Hanson, Hoover Institution senior fellow. Victor, I was in that room when Trump was speaking last night, and if they bothered to listen to him, he was actually saying, I want to work with Democrats to save the cities. I'll work with anybody to save the cities. These are great cities. And they don't want to hear that, because what does that do, Victor?
Well, you know, I think they think that the more they have the biased coverage and the more they spread falsities about Trump, they're like straws on the proverbial Trump camelback. They can finally just overwhelm him. But in fact, as we've seen the last year or two, the opposite is true. The more they lie and they do not apologize and they do not correct the record, and the more they're found out, the less credibility they have and the more popularity Donald Trump had in the primaries. And I think that's going to extend to the general election because they can't stop. They have a Trump fix. They're like an addict. And they know it's not helping them, but they can't stop it because they're addicted to it. And so they're going to continue what you saw last night all through the next year. And I think what little credibility they have left will be shot, and it's going to help Donald Trump. You know, I think we forget that without these media people, the whole January 6th armed insurrection, or most of the lies about the origins of COVID and social distancing and masking, or the circumstances of George Floyd's death and the rioting that happened, not to mention disinformation on the laptop or Russian collusion, all of that wouldn't have had any resonance. They fabricated, constructed, exaggerated all of that. And yet it didn't destroy Donald Trump. He's got the most amazing political comeback in American political history. And I think that's partly because of the news media's bias.
Yeah, but again, they keep backing up and running faster into a brick wall. They kind of tiptoed toward the wall, and they bumped their head, and they backed up. They went a little fast, a little. Now they're running at full speed. And at some point, they're going to knock themselves out, Victor. And it just, I mean, I don't know who they think is voting. I mean, these are real Americans who are really supporting Trump. So I guess it just confirms what everyone thinks, that these people literally hate, despise the caucus goers in Iowa. They despise them because they're racist, they're too white, they're this or that. They hate them.
Well, they do. We've known that for a long time. I mean, look at the vocabulary they've used. Clingers from Obama, and then chumps and dregs from Biden, deplorables, irredeemables, and lately people like Chris Matthews have been warning us about the dangerous rural people. So they've always despised them. But, you know, now they have a new narrative that Trump is a dictator. He's going to have revenge, retribution. That shows that they're really scared that nobody's listening to their lies anymore. And they're afraid that it's counterproductive. And now all they can say is Trump might get elected and he might do this and this. He might do what we would do if we were in his position and had suffered from us. So it's a projection, and it reflects weakness, not strength. I think I don't think they have much credibility, and they're losing the independent, they're losing minority voters because of the lying and the falsity.
All right, Victor, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.